Welcome to Pody Says, Petty Revenge, for all the stories of small victories over those who've wronged someone.
10 cent an hour raise for a management role? I don't think so. This was quite a few years ago, but was thinking about it this morning. I was working for a major company that likes to say, that was easy. Working in the copy center. Our copy manager was let go after being suspected of theft. I had been her right hand for 2 years, so I knew all that needed to be done daily. So I stepped in to keep things going. For about 3 months I did this without a pay increase, even though I was basically the manager of this department. My yearly review came up, and they offered me the role legitimately. They told me the pay would go from $9.80 an hour to $9.90 an hour. Again, this was 15 years ago. They wanted me to take on a full-on management role for 10 cents an hour raise. So I said yes, as I was doing the job anyway, but I started looking for a new job that day. The petty revenge comes in. With accepting this role, I was then to be sent across the country for the yearly copy symposium for a weekend. I had accepted an office position somewhere else for $12 an hour the day before I was supposed to leave on this business trip. I went anyway. Spent the weekend learning things I'd never use, eating and drinking on the company dime. Offer me 10 cents an hour to manage your business? I don't think so. Hope that was petty enough for you guys. I don't know why the OP's complaining. 10 cents an hour. That's amazing. Back in your day, well, maybe back in my day, it would have been like a whole loaf of bread or something. I'm just kidding, I'm not that old. But yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. I'll bet the higher-ups regretted this decision about 10 cents an hour when they got back from their trip, because that's rough for them. But good on you, man. Now let's see what the community thinks. The Shins of Cotton Hill starts us off. Perfection. How did your resignation go? The OP says, it was golden. The other manager that came with me had to break it to me on the trip that the other company never called for a reference. They had offered me on the spot. So when I went in to resign, cue the shocked face from the GM, word had spread and they were so convinced I wasn't going anywhere. Nasty Nate jumps in. 27 days ago, as someone who also worked there around this time, that sounds right. I was the computer consultant. A stupid name for a guy that does stock counts and sets up the computer wall. I looked into management because the job was stupid easy and the pay bump, although more than yours, was not even a full $1. They give you more than 2 drinks at the symposium? When I went to the computer ones, 4 of them, it was only 2 drinks. Alright, let's check out another story. What's in a Wi-Fi name? These are always an adventure for me when I travel. I live in a rural area. Some of my family are mixed race. Our road used to be a village long ago, but now it's just 10 houses on a mile of road with acreage behind each house. When we moved here, one neighbor in particular was difficult to get along with. He keyed my vehicle and wrote slurs on it, amongst other things. The sheriff was no help. But that was a few years ago, and we got past it. It helps that the rest of the neighbors like us, but not him so much. He had hacked into his neighbor's cable lines and had run a cord from another neighbor's outside electric socket and used their electric without their permission, and stole tools from garages, stuff like that. We keep our property neat, help shovel walks, and look in on the couple of elderly folks in the neighborhood, so most folks like us. Last summer, I noticed that hateful neighbors, HN for short, house seemed to be not lived in. A local farmer was mowing his yard with a tractor, so it looked pretty rough. I didn't care enough to ask anyone about him. Yesterday, I was out getting ready for a big winter storm that's coming through. We have farm animals, so I was puttering around outside all day. At one point, my closest neighbor stopped by to talk about the coming storm, and I mentioned that my mailbox was knocked down again and asked him if he'd seen the snowplow do it. It was weird, because it was a couple days after a snow, so I wondered if it was actually a snowplow. My neighbor said he was pretty sure it was HN, since he was back. Seems he came back just after Christmas, but I hadn't noticed. So this morning, I asked our mail carrier. She has all the scoops, and she said that, yeah, the mailbox damage was from him. He and a friend had damaged several with a baseball bat one night, and she had reported it. But, like I said, our sheriff is kind of useless. She also told me that HN had been involved in some well-publicized criminal activity down in Washington, D.C. last winter with a buddy of his and several thousand other people. His buddy's family turned them both in to the FBI hotline, so they both have been couch surfing all over for months to keep from being picked up. They ran out of friends and money and had to come back. She said that when she took him his mail, he had asked why there were utility trucks out. He wondered if they were tapping the phone and electric lines, and was paranoid until she told him it was probably because of the storm coming, but he still seemed freaked out, she said. Then, she kept on her route because it was starting to rain, and soon it will change to freezing ice. So I came in, happy that all the animals were safe and snug, and I made a cup of hot tea and changed my Wi-Fi name to FBI Surveillance. See, if you were going to go with a clever name, it would have been something like Eagle Eye, or We're Watching You, or Big Brother. Those would have been awesome. Because, the FBI is not really going to name it FBI. But, hey, maybe the guys are just that stupid to believe it. Good luck, man. Zor B1 from the community starts us off. Why not let the FBI know his whereabouts? The OP responds, I had thought about that. I don't have any evidence of a crime other than the mail carrier's gossip, so I hesitate to do that. But you could still call and ask about a whereabouts of someone, or maybe he's on a wanted list or something? Oh well. Moving on. Won't take no for an answer? Fine, make it a double. I was a bartender a couple years ago and experienced some form of sexual harassment each time I clocked into work. This came with the territory, unfortunately, and there was little support from management when it came to dealing with the creeps, so we had to get creative with solutions. After a particularly grueling work week, my coworkers convinced me to go out with them to check out another local beach bar that I hadn't been to before. This bar had some fun drinking games available with some great deals on drinks, so we were all having a good time. After my second AMF, I was starting to feel a bit more sociable and strayed a bit from my original group and joined some friendly strangers for a game of beer pong. Halfway through the game, a guy that I hadn't noticed that night asked me if he could buy me a drink. I politely declined and continued my game. 10 minutes later, he returns with an AMF and offers it to me. I hadn't given him a drink order before, so to me, this seemed like he had been watching me for at least an hour to see what I had ordered at my last visit to the bar. I tell him no thanks and that I'm set for drinks the rest of the night. He stood there within 15 feet from me as we finished our particularly long game of beer pong. At the end, he offers me the same AMF that has now been watered down. I say no, but a bit more firmly and walk past him. About 30 minutes later, I'm at the bar with my coworkers again and he finds himself an empty seat right next to me. At first, he sits quietly, which I'm thankful for because he is really starting to annoy me. When he finishes his drink, the old AMF he offered before, he asks the bartender for 2 more, saying the second one would be for me. The bartender looks at me for approval and in a buzzed state, my petty gears start turning. I put on my biggest smile and say, yeah, okay, but I don't want an AMF. I'd like a tequila shot, actually. The creep looks annoyingly smug that I finally accepted his advances. That is until I asked the bartender what his most expensive shot of tequila would be. The bartender looks amused and said his most expensive would ring in at about $50. The creep then starts to look nervous and I ask him if that would be a problem. He tries to cover his nerves and say, my wallet isn't an issue. To that I smile and ask for a double. I gladly take my glorious double shot of tequila, thank him for his generosity, and walk away with my friends. I enjoyed the rest of my night with no further issues from him. Early on in the story, I was worried it was like a spike drink. That dude was wicked creepy. Definitely a way to go on getting back at him. Hit him where it hurts. The wallet. Bull's City Picker says, just a guy who doesn't have to worry about this myself, but wouldn't you be worried about taking a drink from a creepy guy that turned out to have a lot more than alcohol in it? I think he cheated and read my mind. The OP replied, I don't accept drinks from anyone when I'm out for this reason. When I did accept a drink at the end, I watched the bartender pour it from the bottle and he handed it directly to me before I walked away. Zor B1 chimes in. He was warned of your disinterest, but couldn't take the hint. Selena JNB says, what is AMF? Savagely Wrecked helps us out. Adios, motherfucker. A Long Island iced tea on bath salts. Let's keep these stories coming, shall we? Acting like I'm incompetent? Okay, I'll pretend to be. So, this is really small and petty, but it turned my whole day around and made me so happy. I drive a boom truck for work, and my journeyman and I had just finished breaking the truck down. We were loading up our tools and cleaning up our work area. We were in a parking lot, blocking the lane at the exit, but there was enough space at the entrance to exit, and it wasn't marked exit only. nobody had had any issues with it when our shift was set up and our cones were out. We had just picked up our traffic cones, and some lady rolls up in a big lifted truck and starts gesturing that she's annoyed and wants us to move out of the way. My journeyman motions for her to just go around, and she just motions like, "What the fuck?" So I get yelled at. My journeyman tells me to hurry up and get in the truck because this lady wants us to move. I hop in and pull up to the exit, which is right on a busy intersection. I turned to my coworker and said, "Wouldn't it suck if I killed the engine trying to pull out?" He laughed and said, "Yeah." I then asked if he would get mad if I intentionally stalled it, and he said no. So I waited for a break in traffic where our truck and the lady's truck could get out and pretend to go, then stalled it. I waited a little bit before starting the truck back up and went just in time for us to get out and for the lady to get stuck behind us waiting for the next break in traffic. It was so nice. People like that are annoying. Like, why can't you just wait a few more seconds? Are you in that big of a rush? You should have started earlier. Anybody else want to take a guess what that lady's name probably was? I'm going to go with Karen. HP9997 chimes in, "Love this. I hate people who are unnecessarily impatient when driving." The OP chimes in, "Me too, especially because it was obvious we were doing work, high visibility gear. Plus, whenever I encounter something like this in my personal time, I just go around. I don't expect the world to move around me. I just find a different way out." Sean BZA says, "Would have moved forward 3 feet, then stopped, and started putting out the cones again. You have more work that needs the truck to have moved, and should be no more than 3 hours till you're finished. Then, once you're set up, look at your phone and announce it is now time for that mandatory break that you had to miss."
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more and give us a thumbs up.